The message arrived on a quiet Tuesday morning, not with fanfare, but with an eerie buzzing simplicity. In the 50 years since humanity had first reached the stars, nothing like this had ever happened. At Earth Defense Command's headquarters, the enormous screens flickered and glowed, displaying strange fractal-like symbols that writhed unnaturally, as though aware of their audience. Then they shifted, becoming letters in the human alphabet, arranged into a single sentence. Come forth to the spiral conclave. Your presence is noted. Ambassador Elias Cromwell, a man of unshakable composure, stood by the floor-to-ceiling window of his office. The gleaming spires of Neo-Providence stretched beneath him, casting long, orderly shadows as the sun crawled lazily across the sky. His reflection, an older man with a face lined by years of cautious diplomacy, stared back. He turned to General Adelaide Graves, who perched stiffly in one of the leather chairs, hands clasped tightly together. They're really inviting us? Cromwell's voice betrayed something he rarely allowed, a hint of unease. Graves, a woman carved from military stone, nodded curtly. It seems so. After half a century of watching us from the shadows, the Council finally deems us worthy. Or dangerous, Cromwell murmured. He glanced at the strange symbols still flickering on his holopad. In the past decade, human colonies had expanded aggressively, pushing into unexplored regions of space. The timing is suspect. They're rattled, Graves said, her voice tight. Our new colonies are sitting on resources they've ignored for centuries. And now they want to talk? Not to extend a hand, but to keep us in our place. Later that evening, Cromwell sat in his garden, under a fabricated twilight created by the weather controllers. His wife, Miriam, and their daughter, Sylvia, sat with him, their faces betraying unease that no artificial serenity could mask. I don't trust them, Sylvia said, cradling a mug of steaming coffee. She was 30, her sharp wit honed by years as a rising star in Earth's diplomatic corps. We've sent dozens of overtures. Why respond now? They think we've become a threat, Cromwell said. He gazed upward at the engineered starscape, where an unexpected streak cut through the dark, a satellite, or perhaps something watching. Or maybe, Miriam said softly, they just want us where they can see us. Her words lingered, chilling the air far more effectively than the gentle evening breeze. 3 days later, the Ascension, a sleek diplomatic vessel bristling with concealed armaments, launched from Earth's orbit. Cromwell sat in the command chair, surrounded by the hum of instruments and the soft chatter of the crew. Captain Serena Harker approached, her military precision at odds with the slight smile she wore. We're approaching the fold, she said, gesturing to the viewing window. The shimmering distortion of the fold, a shortcut through the fabric of space, gleamed like molten glass. Then let's begin, Cromwell said. The transit was smooth, almost disturbingly so. On the other side of the fold, a monstrous structure dominated the void, the spiral conclave. It resembled a massive flower crafted from metal, its spiraling petals glinting with the cold, faint light of distant stars. Docking request granted, Harker said, though there was hesitation in her voice. They're assigning us to Bay 47. As Cromwell stepped into the docking tunnel, he noticed the taste of the air. Sweet, metallic, and faintly wrong. 2 beings awaited him at the far end. Tall and impossibly thin, their skin shimmered like oil on water, constantly shifting through hues of blue and green. They wore robes of liquid-like fabric, embedded with blinking lights that pulsed rhythmically, as if to some hidden heartbeat. I am Chorus Primus, the taller one said, its voice emerging from a flat, distorted translator. This is Chorus Secundus. Follow. The corridors of the station were unervingly empty. No other beings moved through them, save for small, scuttling cleaning drones. Despite its size, the station felt abandoned, like a mausoleum. When they reached his assigned quarters, Primus paused. You will remain here until summoned. The door sealed with a hiss, leaving Cromwell alone. He immediately activated his communicator. Harker, can you hear me? Yes, sir, came the reply. But we're picking up strange readings. It's like, parts of our systems are blind. Stay alert, Cromwell said. He paced the sterile room, the silence oppressive. A knock broke the quiet. When he opened the door, a small trembling alien entered, its greenish skin slick with sweat. Its enormous black eyes darted around the room nervously. Ambassador, it whispered, I am called Mira, from the Outer Rim. I've come to warn you. Warn me. Mira's voice quivered as it spoke. You've trespassed in places they deem sacred. The elder races hoard power and resources, masking it as protection. Your colonies in the spiral arm. They were unclaimed for a reason. Cromwell frowned. We scouted them. They were empty. Empty, Mira said, because they were being saved. By taking them, you violated their unspoken laws. This invitation is not an offer, it's a trial. They mean to break you, as they have broken others. Before Cromwell could respond, Mira turned abruptly and fled, leaving only the sound of its rapid footsteps fading into the metallic halls. Cromwell stood on the platform at the center of the council chamber, its vast circular design evoking both awe and dread. The walls shimmered with strange glyphs that seemed to move just out of sight. Above him, tiers of alien representatives loomed, their forms distorted by the chamber's dim light. Elias Cromwell of Earth, a voice echoed, emanating from a being so massive it seemed more a construct than a creature. Its golden carapace gleamed, and its dozen segmented eyes locked onto him. Do you understand the privilege of standing before the spiral conclave? I understand, Cromwell said evenly. Then speak. Cromwell reached into his pocket, producing a small crystalline device. I come not to beg for inclusion, but to present evidence of your crimes. The chamber erupted into murmurs as the device projected a series of damning images, manipulated star charts, falsified records, and transmissions ordering the destruction of developing civilizations. This council claims to protect the weak, Cromwell said, his voice rising, but instead you exploit them, hoard what you deem precious, and crush anyone who dares challenge you. The golden being hissed. You overstep, primitive. Guards, seal the chamber. Shutters slammed shut, plunging the room into darkness. A faint, acrid scent filled the air. Cromwell's communicator crackled. Sir, Harker's voice came faintly. They've activated containment protocols. The air. Cromwell's skin began to itch, then burn. He could hear faint, mechanical clicks, like a countdown. Through the growing agony, he managed to choke out, broadcast. Everything. The last thing he saw before collapsing was the cold, satisfied gaze of the counselors above. The chamber was silent, save for the hiss of extinguishing fumes as the noxious gas cleared. Cromwell's charred body lay crumpled on the platform, a grotesque testament to the council's power. Above, the alien delegates watched impassively, their faces unreadable. Yet far beyond the chamber's sealed walls, the Ascension hovered in the darkness of space. On board, Captain Harker's face was pale, her expression stricken. The broadcast from Cromwell's communicator had reached them unfiltered, every horrific detail of his death etched into the ship's logs. We're transmitting everything to Earth, the comms officer reported, his voice trembling. Encoded and wideband. They'll know. And the council? Harker asked. They've dispatched pursuit vessels. Then let's make them work for it. The Ascension roared to life, thrusters igniting as it veered sharply away from the station. The pursuit vessels followed, sleek and predatory, their designs a stark contrast to the human ship's utilitarian bulk. As they fled, the crew worked in frantic unison. Harker activated a secure channel. Earth defense, this is the Ascension. Mission failure. Ambassador Cromwell is dead. His final message and council crimes are en route. Prepare for retaliation. Copy that, Ascension, came the calm reply. Your orders are to evade and survive. Harker's jaw tightened. Evasion won't be easy. They're faster than us. But evasion was not the Ascension's only option. In the ship's reinforced hull were weapons and technologies the Council would never expect, a result of humanity's long-standing paranoia and ingenuity. Deploy countermeasures, Harker barked. The Ascension launched a series of improvised decoys, hollowed-out cargo pods filled with reflective material, mimicking energy signatures. The alien ships hesitated, their targeting systems scrambling. Bring us to the fold, Harker ordered. They'll follow us, the navigator warned. Let them. Earth needs them to see what we're capable of. The Ascension plunged into the shimmering fold, the Council ships close behind. On Earth, Cromwell's final transmission spread like wildfire. It played on every screen, in every corner of human space. Billions watched as their ambassador, burned and defiant, condemned the Council with his last breath. The reaction was swift and unified. Admiral Robert Greaves stood in the Earth Defense Command war room, his face lit by the flickering glow of tactical displays. Around him, military leaders from Earth and its colonies voiced their approval for action. "The colonies are calling for war," said one officer. "Unanimously." And the Council's response? "They've labeled Cromwell a criminal and Earth a rogue state. They're assembling a punitive fleet." Greaves turned to the main display. It showed Project Sisyphus, a plan long buried in the classified archives. "They think we're weak," he said, "because we don't fight like them. But we don't need to." Sisyphus wasn't a fleet of gleaming starships. It was a network of hidden launch platforms, disguised as asteroids and mining operations. Their purpose was brutally simple: launch vast numbers of low-tech projectiles at high velocities. "They've grown complacent," Greaves continued. "Their defenses are designed for elegance. Shields, energy weapons, AI precision. But all the sophistication in the galaxy can't stop a rock moving at 20% of light speed." The room erupted into grim smiles. The Council's arrogance would be their undoing. "Begin activation," Greaves commanded. The Council's punitive fleet arrived in Earth's outer colonies, expecting submission. What they encountered instead was chaos. The first wave of kinetic strikes hit the fleet's vanguard, massive slugs of metal smashing through energy shields with catastrophic force. The advanced Council ships, unable to detect the primitive projectiles, exploded in bursts of light and debris. In the confusion, human ships emerged from asteroid fields and debris clouds, striking with missiles and railguns. Council targeting systems, optimized for energy weapons, struggled to lock onto the erratic movements of these primitive vessels. Admiral Greaves watched the battle from Earth Defense Command, his expression grimly satisfied. "Report." "Phase 1 complete," an officer replied. "Their vanguard is in retreat. No human casualties reported." "Good. Begin Phase 2." Across the system, disguised platforms launched more projectiles, targeting Council supply lines and communication relays. The Council fleet, unable to adapt to the unpredictable assaults, fractured under the pressure. But humanity wasn't merely defending its colonies. It was sending a message. Far across Council space, at their central stronghold known as the Rings of Vatria, panic was spreading. Vatria, a series of defense stations powered by artificial suns, had long been considered impregnable. The first sign of trouble came when a series of disguised cargo ships drifted into the system. They were unarmed, yet their presence went unnoticed by the Council's advanced sensors. Inside one of these ships, Commander Silas Marr, a former mining engineer turned military strategist, smiled grimly. "Ready the payloads." The cargo ships ejected their contents, massive slabs of tungsten, propelled by simple chemical thrusters. Moving at devastating speeds, the projectiles slammed into the rings, obliterating key stations and plunging the system into darkness. On Earth, Greaves received the news with satisfaction. "The Council's core defenses are crumbling," his aide reported. "Their fleets are in disarray." "Good," Greaves said. "Send the signal to the colonies. It's time to unite under one banner. Humanity stands as one." On the spiral conclave, the surviving Council members gathered in their shattered chamber. The High Speaker, a being of serpentine elegance, slumped in its throne. "They are relentless," it hissed. "Primitives who fight like beasts. They have no honor, no order." A younger counselor, its voice tinged with fear, replied, "They fight with purpose. Every blow is calculated. Every loss avenged." "We must end this," the High Speaker declared. But it was too late. Across the galaxy, the younger races, long suppressed under Council rule, were rising. Inspired by humanity's defiance, they began to sabotage Council installations, their primitive methods bypassing advanced defenses. Among them was Mira, the small alien who had warned Cromwell. Now a liaison for the rebel forces, Mira worked tirelessly to rally support. "The Council underestimated them," Mira told its allies. "They underestimated us all." The final battle came without ceremony. Humanity, joined by rebel fleets from across the galaxy, descended upon the Council's last bastion. Admiral Greaves led the assault, his fleet striking with ruthless precision. The Council's defenses, designed for elegance and intimidation, crumbled under the relentless barrage of kinetic strikes and primitive missiles. Inside the Council chamber, Lisa Cromwell stood before the captured councillors. Her father's defiance echoed in her words. "You sought to make an example of us," she said, "but we made one of you." The spiral conclave fell, not with a cataclysmic explosion, but with the quiet surrender of its leaders. In its place, humanity and its allies established the Galactic Assembly, a new order where power was shared, not hoarded. In the years that followed, the scars of war healed. The Assembly grew, uniting species that had once been enemies. Humanity, once seen as primitive, now stood as a beacon of resilience and defiance. And in the night skies of Earth, beneath the vast tapestry of stars, the legacy of Elias Cromwell burned brightly, a reminder that even in the face of overwhelming power, the will to resist could reshape the galaxy. The Galactic Assembly's Hall of Unity was a marvel of creation, an enormous sphere of transparent material that floated in the void, offering an unobstructed view of the stars. It was designed to symbolize the openness of the new era, a stark contrast to the secretive, fortress-like structures of the old council. Lisa Cromwell stood at the center of the hall, the same platform where her father had once stood, defiant and doomed. Now it was a place of hope, surrounded by representatives of countless species, their voices no longer raised in condemnation but in collaboration. "Today," Lisa began, her voice steady yet rich with emotion, "we remember the sacrifices that brought us here. We remember those who stood against corruption, tyranny, and fear, so that the future might belong to all." A hologram flickered to life above her, a rotating image of Elias Cromwell. The sight of his face, lined with wisdom and resolve, drew a murmur from the gathered representatives. "My father believed in the potential of this galaxy," Lisa continued. "Not just for humanity, but for all who call it home. He gave his life to show us that the old ways, the ways of hoarding power and subjugating others, were not inevitable. They were a choice. And so is this assembly." The delegates shifted, many nodding. Among them sat Mira, now a senior representative of the Rim Worlds, its large eyes glistening as it watched Lisa speak. "This is not a perfect beginning," Lisa admitted. "We still carry the wounds of war. There are scars that cannot be undone. But there is also hope. The hope that together, we can build something that will outlast all of us." From the shadows of the assembly, Admiral Robert Greaves observed silently. He had never been one for speeches, but the weight of the moment pressed on even his battle-hardened heart. This was not just the end of a war, it was the beginning of something unprecedented. The assembly vote was unanimous, a rare and poignant reminder of what they had all endured. The Charter of Galactic Unity was signed, etched into a crystalline monument that would float at the center of the Hall of Unity for generations to come. Later, Lisa stood on a balcony overlooking the Assembly's orbiting station. Mira approached, its movements tentative but purposeful. "You spoke well today," Mira said, its voice soft. Lisa smiled faintly. "I wasn't sure I'd be able to. My father's shoes are too large to fill." Mira tilted its head. "Your father's legacy is not in his shoes. It is in the path he carved, the stars he pointed us toward." Lisa turned to the view of the galaxy beyond, her thoughts drifting to the countless lives touched by the war. The faces of soldiers, colonists, and rebels, each of them carrying their own pain and hopes. "They say humanity changed the galaxy," Lisa said, her tone contemplative. "But the truth is, the galaxy changed us too. We learned to fight together, to survive together, to rise above what we were." Mira nodded. "Perhaps that is the greatest victory of all, not the battles, but the lessons learned in their aftermath." Lisa's gaze lingered on a distant star. It reminded her of Earth, of nights spent staring at the heavens with her father. She could almost hear his voice, calm and resolute. "Remember, Lisa, the stars don't belong to anyone. They belong to everyone." In the years that followed, the Galactic Assembly faced trials. Old prejudices surfaced, and new challenges arose. Yet the foundation of unity endured. Humanity, once considered primitive, became known as the architects of a new order. Their allies, inspired by Earth's determination and defiance, brought their own strengths to the assembly, creating a mosaic of cultures and perspectives. Elias Cromwell's name became legend, a reminder of what one individual's courage could inspire. Statues of him stood not only on Earth but across alien worlds, his likeness often accompanied by the inscription, "Remember, respond, rise." Lisa, too, left her mark. As the Assembly's first elected chancellor, she guided the galaxy through its tumultuous rebirth. Her leadership was not without its challenges, but she carried her father's lessons with her, always striving to honor his sacrifice. In the end, The assembly's success was not measured in battles won or enemies defeated, but in the lives rebuilt and the bonds forged across the stars. Far from the bustling assembly station, on a quiet colony world bathed in golden sunlight, a small plaque rested at the base of an ancient oak tree. It bore a simple inscription: "To Elias Cromwell, who dared to light the fire." A child ran past it, laughing, as her parents followed close behind. The tree's branches swayed gently in the wind, its leaves rustling like whispers from the past. Above, the stars shone brightly, no longer distant points of light, but a promise of endless possibility.